Welcome to the France 24 debate. The French Prime Minister says taxes must be cut, and cut quickly. Edouard Philippe had the task this Monday of delivering the report on the Grand Débat National, France's great national debate. A 3-month-long exercise in which President Macron himself took part found that most of all, the French are pretty much sick of the tax system. Too many feel penalised. Will this Grand Débat National and its findings be enough to stop the weekly Gilets jaunes yellow vest protests? Perhaps it all depends on President Macron and Prime Minister Philippe and the French administrative classes to actually start the reforms that work. Well, we'll bring in our guests after this report from Tom Waterhouse.
For 3 months, the French nation had its say, and the government now says it's listened. On Monday, under the glass roof of Paris's Grand Palais, the findings of the Grand Débat were made clear to see.
We have reached a situation where hesitating would be worse than making a mistake. It would be wrong. The need for change is so radical that any conservatism and any timidity would be unforgivable.
Some 1.5 million French voters took part in the deliberations, either online or at one of 10,000 town hall-style meetings held up and down the country. The frustrations expressed during those debates fall into 4 categories, which Edouard Philippe has pledged to tackle. Participants believe there are too many taxes and public spending is too high. The disparities between Paris and France's regions and territories should be reduced, and the very notion of direct democracy needs to be bolstered. Voters also want more to be done to address climate change. But crucially, 2 of the Yellow Vests' key demands, namely the reintroduction of a wealth tax and the introduction of popular votes allowing citizens to suggest laws, didn't feature in the Prime Minister's speech this Monday. The government's opponents say the response is just an old record that they've heard many times before.
All that Edouard Philippe has done here is confirm his government's wishes and the policies they've pursued for the past 2 years.
With the flame of yellow vest discontent still flickering, Philippe will address both houses of parliament across the next 2 days, before President Macron details the next economic measures that his government wants to take.
The great national debate, we do have a lot to talk about. Let's introduce our guests then to thrash this one out. Yves Sintomet is Professor of Political Science at Paris 8 and one of the guarantors of the Grand Debate. Thank you so very much for joining us. On the other side of our studio, though, not necessarily against, Anne Le Breton, a Deputy Mayor of the 4th District of Paris and member of La République En Marche. Thank you very much for being with us. On the other side of our studio again, Claire Béagel is Marketing Director at Fluicity, which is a platform, web and mobile, that collects ideas, advice and needs from citizens in real time. I'm looking forward to finding out more about that. And joining us by Skype, at a distance, but still welcome very much in this debate, sir. So speak as often as you possibly can. Haja Rassolona-Yatovo, who is from La République Souveraine, and a person who protested with the Gilets jaunes. As you are far away, Haja, we'll let you have the first say in this debate. Tell us what you think about what's been revealed so far about the findings of the great national debate here in France.
First of all, good evening, and it's my pleasure to be with you, to say what I have, at the back of my mind, and to put cards on the table, very frankly. We are very disappointed, but not surprised at all. Because since the very beginning, it was clear, crystal clear, that key points wouldn't be part of this debate, which isn't a great debate, but a fake debate. And Chantal Jouanneau said things very clearly. And from our point of view, just one example is that in Europe, the origin of unemployment is delocalization, to Romania or Poland and countries like that. And we cannot change the rule of Europa unless we have the unanimity of 28 members. So it's not, about politics or, gossiping. It's very clear. We cannot change the rule in Europa, and Macron didn't allow us to talk about that about this point, for example, in this debate. So I'm happy to put things clearly with my friends tonight.
Hadja, thank you very much, and we'll come back to you as soon as we can, sir, but allow people here to have their say first, if you wouldn't mind, sir. Thank you very much indeed. And I'll bring you in first, because clearly Hadja was making a point there about this being a false debate. What would you say to that?
No, the French had the possibility of speaking about anything they wanted to speak. There were a set of questions, but they could go beyond those questions and address any other question they wanted to. So it was not a closed debate, and they had ample time, because we had 10,000 meetings in common halls, 16,000 registers in town halls. So they had ample opportunity and time, and there was also 2 million online answers. So the French really participated in this debate, and they had all the possibility to say anything they wanted, really. I'd
just like to add, I'm British, and seeing the mess we've made of Brexit so far, if we tried to organise something like this in the UK, it would have been a complete disaster, I am sure. Yves Saint-Omer, we heard what Anne said, and obviously you're politically biased. You're from Macron's party, so I'm going to say that.
Absolutely, I'm not going to deny it.
She's got a political side. So I'm taking that you're straight down the middle. Were you happy with how the Great National Debate unfolded? Do you think things could have been better, could have been worse? I mean, Macron himself took part over 92 hours, didn't he?
Well, worse, we don't know yet, but better, it's pretty sure. One of the problems of a big debate was that it has not been conceived as something progressive, which, after the local debate, can lead to a regional debate and to a national debate, with a deliberation towards a common good and putting together the different contributions of individuals and persons. The debate has been conceived quite differently as a set of separate debates with the Prime Minister, the government and the President, who claim to make the synthesis of the debate. But what are the rules of the synthesis? It's like to be in a game in which, at the end, you don't know according to what rule the conclusion and the winner will be designed, and according to what rules this decision will be taken and the other will not be taken. At this stage, I have strong doubts about it.
So you're unhappy with how the synthesis of this, the results, I'll try and give it a kind of English expression, we'd say in English, yeah, the results of what the first findings, the primary findings. You're unhappy with how they've been presented?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things which are said to come from the big debate actually do not come from a debate, but to individual votes of individual persons. If you want to make a pool, it's better to have a normal pool, because you have a representative sample of the people, when those who participated in the Grand Débat, as far as we have sociological and statistical inquiries, shows that these peoples are older than the average citizen. These people are much better off than the average French citizen. So it's another people, much different from the people who demonstrated in the streets with the yellow jackets.
So the thing is that democracy and this national debate is a great democratic idea. I mean, as a British person standing back, it looks like a great idea, but you're saying that not everybody actually takes advantage of that.
The great democratic idea would be first to have a debate, really, not just a series of contributions isolated from each other. Second, to have a debate which would be much more inclusive and much more representative of the people. It was the case at regional level with citizen assemblies randomly selected among citizens. These were more representative than the big debate. And three, to have conclusions of the debate which really comes from it, not as the main proposal which the Prime Minister has offered, to cut tax, which he could have said much before the Grand Débat.
Everybody likes a tax cut, let's face it. I sense Anne and Hadja are itching to get into reply to what you were saying. Let's bring in Claire first for a kind of, the analysis that you can give us. What observations do you have from your work at Fluidity, the observation that you've been making?
Yes, so to give my advice, I think it's better also to explain the company for which I work. So it's Fluidity. So it's a digital platform mobile and web. And the goal is to connect citizens and governments, and we do that since 2015. So we were not so surprised by the Yellow Vest movement, because we analyzed since 2015 that people need to be here, want to participate, and want to be connected at a local level. So that's why I think the national debate is a good initiative. It's what we do, to ask people what they think on several topics, but it is not very efficient if it's just at one moment to solve a crisis. So what we do at Free City is that we connect citizens and elected people on a local scale and on the everyday life. So we ask them questions about very local topics, and also more global topics like ecological transitions, social justice, etc. But I think they need a local stage to be involved and to believe in democracy. And afterwards, you can also ask questions more globally, like the national debate.
So this is like the French model, which is very much a big sort of like national driven thing. And you're saying it should be broken down into more of a regional. I think that's the point you were making too, isn't it? That it should be broken down into that level. Smaller things, giving more people more say in that sense. I mean, but you were making the point that so many people took part, Anne.
No, but I agree with you, Claire, in a lot of what you're saying. I think it's going to be very important for the rest of what's going to happen with the debate to continue speaking to the French. It's not going to be only once in the great debate, and it's very important that we do so in the local at the local level. And that's going to be, I think, a big trend in the years to come. And participation is always a problem in democracy. There's only, part of the people who vote, and we know it's a big problem. It's a big challenge.
The great problem with democracy is that people have the choice as to whether they vote or not. That's one of the issues.
Yes,
isn't
it's a challenge. It's always a challenge.
Hadja, can you still hear us there in Haute-Savoie? I imagine I hope you've got a wonderful lifestyle out there, because it's a beautiful part of the world. Do you feel that your friends, your neighbours' issues, problems, fears, concerns were expressed well in this debate? Do you feel that they had the chance to have their say?
I really pay attention to what the previous people said, local democracy and stuff like that. And I think that people don't understand what the very issue is. It's not about only having a moment, let's talk together. It's about changing rules. I want to be as clear as I possibly can. If we can't change the rules within the European Union, President Macron won't be able, to fight efficiently against massive unemployment. So I think...
I'm sorry, Hadja, so Europe's the problem. Is that what you're saying? Europe is the problem?
I think that European rules is one of the major points. And first of all, we have to emphasize here and to acknowledge altogether that this debate could exist only because there were massive street demonstrations. This debate is the outcome of mobilization of Gilets jaunes, of Yellow Vest. So just bear in mind what Bourdieu told us. There is no social policy unless there is social pressure in the street. And I think that Mr. Macron acted as if he was a magician, Everybody agrees that he is quite a good speaker, but once, the one-man show is over, the massive unemployment is still there. And people in the street, are not foolish. They understand that, for example, let me be clear, in France, one man can win 1,500 income each month. And there is a social dumping with Poland or Romania or countries like that, where people win 400 each month. So no matter how long this debate will last, if we cannot change the rules, especially the European rules, so it is just nonsense. And this is why with George Kuzmanovic, we founded the République Souveraine, because beyond, traditional and old-fashioned fight between left side and right side. We want to gather all people who want to protect jobs and who want to reach social justice.
Roger, thank you very much indeed, Hadja from La République Souveraine. And can I bring you back to sort of reply in a sense to what Hadja was saying there about jobs and about the role that Europe is playing? I mean, presumably President Macron is very pro-Europe, sees France as central to the European project. I mean, clearly, I imagine you disagree with probably everything he said.
I disagree because also he was kind of pulling the light to something he has created as very minority in France. And it wasn't what
it's not minority, madame. 4 million jobs
I didn't interrupt you, please. What Hadja was talking...
Just give us a second, please, sir. I'll let you back in a moment,
okay,
please.
What Hadja was talking about was not among the major demands of the Gilets jaunes, and Europe was not in the center, actually, of the demands. I think, yes, for us...
His point is that Europe is killing jobs, I think. That's what he's trying to say.
I know, but he's supposed to be here in a debate expressing views of the Gilets jaunes, and it was more of his views, I think, he was expressing there. And so is Europe killing jobs? Well, Europe is, for us, we're a very pro-European country, and we think Europe makes us stronger. Europe is the better scale to face globalization. And so, no, I will strongly disagree with that statement.
Okay, Hadja's also campaigned and been out demonstrating with the Gilets jaunes. So
I know.
He has that
that
kind of extra sort of added value in terms of what this debate is doing. And I think his point about sort of how jobs can be subject to or killed off by globalization, moving to smaller countries, different countries, cheaper countries, is a really relevant issue.
That is a relevant issue to our country, that definitely.
And we need to leave it at that for the moment. End of part one. Stay with us. More to come in part two here at the France 24 debate. Thank you, sir. Welcome back to part two of the France 24 debate. We're looking at the great national debate here in France, of course, launched 3 months ago by Emmanuel Macron as a kind of solution to the Gilets jaunes crisis. The idea to give all of the 67 million people across France their own chance to have their say about why they're unhappy and what they would like to see improved. Earlier today, the Prime Minister, Edouard Philippe, gave his summary of what everyone had to say. And the main line that came out, according to the Prime Minister, is that the French are basically sick of being taxed, overtaxed. They say taxes are punitive. But we suspect there are many other issues that people are unhappy about, apart from just that. Well, here to discuss the great national debate on this, the France 24 debate, we've got our guests, and let me introduce them to you. And they've got things to say. Yves Sintomet is Professor of Political Science at Paris 8. And one of the guarantors of the great national debate.
At Paris level, not at national level.
And well, nonetheless, you are, sir, a guarantor, which gives you a certain status, and we're glad you're here to share that with us. Thank you very much. Yves Sintomet. On the other side of the studio, from La République En Marche, Deputy Mayor of the 4th District of Paris, the 4e arrondissement. Anne Le Breton. Thank you for being with us, Anne. On the other side of the studio again, Claire Bergel, who is from the company Fluidity, which is a platform, web and mobile, that collects ideas, advice and needs from citizens in real time. And you say you saw the yellow vest protest problem coming on the horizon. Is that right?
Yes, I said that we were not surprised because we heard that will to be heard, to participate, and also some strong ideas about transportation. So we kind of...
You sense people are unhappy, definitely.
Yes, totally.
Claire, thank you very much indeed. And joining us by Skype from Haute-Savoie in the east of France, over there by the Swiss border, is Hadja Rosolano-Yatovo, who is from La République Souveraine, who is also one of the Gilets jaunes protesters. Hadja, tell us why you chose to put on a gilet jaune, a yellow vest, and get out there and protest.
Actually, the reason is very clear, and I've been given the occasion to listen to it once more, because Madame from La République En Marche said that losing 4 million of jobs from delocalization wasn't, you know, in the debate.
That's not what I said.
We want President Macron to listen to us. He refuses to listen to us because he's cut from true life. So, Madame from La République En Marche says that it's my vision. Let me tell you, Madame, that it's a vision of millions of French people, and you have to acknowledge that President Macron electors are just representative of 20% of French voters. So beyond this little clan of 20% voters, millions of people are really worried about this job loss, this massive job destruction. And since politicians refuse to listen to us, so we go into the street. And unfortunately, there was a massive repression. And I can witness, and I even have my own pictures, that there were a very, very deep and condemned by the UN, the United Nations, a massive repression.
Ajay, the United Nations has raised questions about how France policed the demonstrations. There are also questions about how certain people behaved. Now, can I give you the chance to comment on that, whether you would condemn the violence that certain members of your demonstration chose to enact on parts of France, notably the Champs-Élysées?
Actually, I've not given the occasion to say it, but I'm a history teacher. I've been teaching history for 12 years. And I say to my students that the best method and the only method is the non-violent method. Martin Luther King and Gandhi. So, of course, I condemn any kind of violence.
Ajay, I need to stop you there. Sir, I need to stop you there and bring in the other guests, if you don't mind, sir. Thank you very much indeed. So, Ajay, there, condemning violence, which is obviously a good thing. He's also pointing out that he's trying to say that you are trying to sideline this idea of 4 million jobs going from the debate. Now, I think he's being kind of unfair to you, but the question I'll put to you is, what can you and President Macron and Edouard Philippe and all your government do to create jobs in France?
I want to set records straight. To win an election, you do have to have more than 50% of the votes. So we were not elected with 20%.
And there was a landslide in the legislatives afterwards, yeah.
So, exactly. And the parliament was a landslide victory afterwards. So no, we do not represent 20%. You would like it to be that way, but it's not the case. And what has come out of the Great Debate, where a lot more people participated in the Great Debate than people actually demonstrated in the streets. That also has to be said. And it's hardly surprising that what came out of this Great Debate confirms for a lot what people brought us to power for. And I'm surprised that you're surprised, sir, you know, because it was only 2 years ago that we won the election. And then now we have the result of the Great Debates does confirm the reasons why we came in power. That there are problems in France, and I agree with you, Claire. I had also seen some of the problems that have come. The division between rural France and cities is something that I have seen coming for a long time. And I think that we were aware of it when we came to power. But, you know, it takes time to solve things. You cannot put buses back in every single little village in 2 seconds. I have a little village in the Loire-et-Cher where, you know, you used to be able to go on a train. And now you have to take a car to drive to a station that's 30 kilometers away. Same thing with the hospitals. Things like that we have to work on that. And we knew it when we came to power. And the crise des gilets jaunes, you know, the yellow vest crisis, has really pinpointed that we need to address those issues very fast.
And a lot of those things need to be paid for out of taxpayers' money. And the French people in this great debate saying they're fed up of being taxed. Yves.
Yes, but there are very different reasons for explaining why people have a feeling to pay too much taxes. The first reason is that you can't make it, it's too much. Another reason, quite different, is what I pay is not fair compared to other pay. And a third reason is what I pay is not fair compared to the services which are provided. If you split these different reasons, then the solutions are quite different. So just to say taxes are too much is something which is a starting point, but not the end of the day.
And if taxes are reduced, Anne and her colleagues, They can't go and build hospitals in a different part of France. They can't go and provide railway services.
One of the
no, I don't agree with that.
One of the problems of the big debate was that it was not really a debate. It was not possible to compare, to say, okay, together you have this proposal, you have this proposal, we join them, and then we see whether they are compatible or not. It was more a set of proposals which are without any real deliberation to define in common what the common good could be.
Anne?
Well, I think we're at the time now where we're going to have to face the question of public spending. And more than deciding that we're going to, have or not have some services, we're going to have to look at the efficiency of public spending, because it's not only public spending that will be able to put services in regions. There are other ways of doing it. You might have shared taxis. You can, there are a lot of ways that we could think of doing things differently than they were in the past, but still to have something that to be able to get a link back between the rural places and the major towns.
Building a hospital, though, that's serious money. And in other countries, I'm thinking of the UK, there's a public-private partnership which has been used to varying degrees of success and lots of criticism. Is that something you might consider?
Well, I think we have to look at the efficiency of public spending. There is public spending and the efficiency of public spending. And I think that's what we're really looking at now.
Claire, taxes, was that something that you picked up on your little grapevine you were listening to? Did you finger on the pulse of France? Did you get that sense that people are sick of being taxed?
So actually we ask questions on a really local level, so with mayors, so they don't have input on taxes, but we did an operation before the great debate with the Rural Association of Mayors in France, and it was the digital operation of the Cahier de Doléances in reference to the French Revolution. So we asked people what are their doléances, their complaints, and it was one of the main topics. Taxes, exactly, with transportation and ecological transition. But taxes was first, and I think it's confirmed tonight. So it's one of the main concerns, especially in a rural area.
Indeed, public transport is a major issue. Paris is, compared to, say, London, it's a lot cheaper. Some might say that it's not as good.
We're not talking about public transport in Paris. I think we're talking about public transport in the rest of France. And that people in the Paris area have ways of getting from one place to another. But rural areas, have no other way than the cars. So that is something we're going to have to address.
Thank you for making that transition for me, because I'm going back to Haute-Savoie now to get to bring Hadja back in to talk about that very issue. Public transport, Hadja, where you are in Haute-Savoie, which is a beautiful part of the world. If people don't know it, it's typically a place where some people might go skiing. In the summer, of course, it's a beautiful place to go hiking. It is absolutely gorgeous. I love the place completely. You're there full time. You're a lucky guy. In terms of how public transport works where you are, tell me, is it good? Is it bad? What is your experience, sir?
First of all, you're completely right. It's a gorgeous place. And since I cannot be in Madagascar, I enjoy, Lac d'Annecy and stuff like that. And it's really magnificent. But let's get serious again. And maybe it will be a little bit surprising. But for example, as far as I'm concerned, it's not representative of my political movement, but as far as I'm personally concerned, I come from a Protestant church. So I like business. I love business. It's not a problem for me to earn money. And for example, I'm not against the fact to make taxes disappear. But to reach this goal, we have to acknowledge that we have to reach full employment. Because everybody here must agree that taxes, mainly, massively, are made to pay and to compensate for people who are jobless. So let me tell you one thing.
And that's the right thing, isn't it, that people get help if they're jobless? That's right. That's right, isn't it? That's a civilized society.
But, we have to change the software. It's high time we should change the software, because it's not always of talking about, millions of people are jobless and they need, social help. No, let's give them a job. And if millions of people get a job back, and, Chinese people do it, even American people do it with Buy American Act. Let's bring job back with what we can say, backshoring jobs, and then we don't need any taxes.
I think you're going down a different alleyway there, Hadja, in terms of trying to compare what happens in the US and China with what perhaps should be done here. And I'm sure Anne would have a comment on that. And probably...
I will completely agree with Hadja. We want to have the French people have more jobs, and that will help the economy a lot. So we do agree on one point. And apart from the fact that I also like Haute-Savoie very much.
Which is good. There's a lot to like. There's a lot to like. In terms of the tax cuts things, that's the main headline that came from the Grand National debate, Yves. In terms of that happening, do we think there's going to be any movement? Because the government may say one thing and then do nothing. What do you think?
I mean, I'm not a friend of Macron or Philippe. I don't know what they will make.
I'm making a general comment about governments. Often governments of any colour say one thing, then take the foot off the gas.
But, we don't know what the decision will be and how the decision will be taken. It would have been quite different if the government and the president have said, okay, after the debate, the National Assembly on the one side, the Economic and Social and Ecological Council on the other side, and a citizen assembly randomly selected on the other side will put forward each of them 5 proposals, and citizens will decide on these 15 proposals. This would have been clear, and you could have verified or not that the proposals, the program of the government was satisfying French people. I think the way in which it is made makes the outcome very unclear, and one can have a lot of doubts about what will be made. Democracy is not just about discussing, talking. It's to have voice in the decision-making. And until now, we have no guarantee that this will be the case.
Well, I hope here you're all getting your voice, which is obviously a very positive thing. Claire?
Yes, on Free City, we really insist on the concretization and on the promise, which is easy on a local level because you can easily concretize something, implement new local investment, etc. But on the product, you can really follow your idea, see if it's implemented, if it's discussed, if it's for real or not. But if it's impossible, the mayor will explain why. And I think what is missing on this great debate is the explanation and also the promise of what they will do with all this proposition. For the moment, what I read, and it's really recent, is a lot of analysis, but I just wonder what will happen after. And maybe that's why people don't know if they will participate or not, because they don't really see what will be the income of their participation. So I hope that there will be some results, and I'm sure the government is working for that. But I think what is important in a digital participation is to show what will be the promise behind.
Let's put that to Anne Le Breton from Emmanuel Macron's party. Are you going to deliver? That's the question.
Well, I'm not part of the government either, so I probably don't know much more than you, but I know one thing is that now we're going to go through the process of analyzing all the data. And so this is only starting now. So the results will come after a few weeks of work that are going to be done, that's going to be done by a lot of different bodies. And that's only after that the different propositions are going to come up. So we're only at the beginning of the process.
Just for the elections, you mean? For the European elections? When will it be decided?
At the end of the process of analysis. You know, you can't have that many people who've participated and just come up and deliver a message. That would be, you know, you would criticize that too. That would be a false result. what we gave today was just a few inklings of what had come up. But now we have to go into the
But don't you think it's a bit a mess that this process will overlap with European elections?
Well, you have to give it time. You can't process 2 million. And there's some things that have been written, and there are debates in all kinds of forms. You can't process that in a week. It's impossible.
Yves, what do you think should have happened? You're clearly getting at something there. Can you spell out what you think should have been done, what the problem is?
I think that you would have had a debate beginning at local level, then regional level, then a citizen assembly randomly selected on the one hand, and the assembly, elected assembly on the other hand, making a synthesis and proposing to a referendum at large the most important issues coming from the debate. We would have had rules of the game clear, and we could also have accepted results which won't have been our proposals, but the rules would have been fair. Here, a lot of people will have the feeling that it's a trap, and that the debate was made first in order to solve the crisis of the Yellow Jackets, and second, and second, to win votes for the European elections. If this is the case,
well, you participated in the Paris debate with Anne Hidalgo, who's a socialist mayor, and it was organized quite differently from the rest of France. I think maybe that is
doesn't lead the socialist policy.
Anyway, so I think that's what we're maybe hearing here a little bit also, is that.
But I think that Anne Hidalgo, as a lot of mayors in France, are afraid because they've played the game, each of them according to its or his or her own rules.
Yes.
But then a lot of people, a lot of mayors with whom I talk, are afraid, saying, if it's a trap, we will be responsible of the trap.
But why do you think it should be a trap? Wait until we get the results. You can't.
Let me pause you there and bring in our Media Watch expert with more, which might fuel the debate. Emma James coming up right now. James joins us. First of all, happy birthday to you. It's your birthday today, but that's not why you're here. Tell us what you found online.
Yes, there's an awful lot of reaction, as you might expect, because this really was a grand exercise, to use the ground of the grand debate. It was an ambitious attempt to really take this to the people, given that the people had spoken by donning yellow vests and going out to the streets. Now, some of the figures involved, this is the Le Grand Débat's actual website. Almost 2 million people made contributions online, and there were 10,000 meetings, local meetings around the country. 92 hours of discussion were taken part in by Emmanuel Macron himself. Yes, absolutely. So this really was a grand débat in the sense that it involved a lot of people and a lot of time. Quite how well it's worked, well, this perhaps is an unfortunate way to sort of look at, did this have a double meaning? The website earlier on today was down for maintenance, work in progress, says this journalist. Does that sum it all up? It does a little bit, I think it's fair to say. This cartoon from Deline is quite a lengthy one, but it's probably worth looking at. Emmanuel Macron is asking, what can we do for these rednecks, of his Prime Minister, of course, Edouard Philippe. And he talks about, we could rename Orly Airport in honour of the late Johnny Hallyday, probably the most famous French rock artist we've ever had, and Macron tells him to be serious. Then he's told that, well, they want a higher
minimum wage.
Yep. They want free petrol, and they want your resignation. At which point we then see that the upshot of all this is indeed Aéroport Johnny. Now that, of course, is very tongue-in-cheek, but a lot of people are wondering quite what this will mean for the people of France. Certainly, this is a rather cynical take too. Everyone can have their opinion, but of course, as you see, every face has become Emmanuel Macron in that image. And it's interesting to see that a lot of people feel that Emmanuel Macron really has played too central a role in all this, in so much as by televising these debates, by making it a media event, he's actually taken away this idea that he's there to hear from the little people. And really, you start to wonder, is he just there to be seen, to be listening? And a lot of people seem to be sharing that opinion.
It's one of those things, isn't it, though? I mean, he's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't. So in a sense,
yes,
Macron can't win, can he?
No, because if he'd done it behind closed doors, that would have seen as being secretive and not telling people what's going on. There's a lot of negativity online. That's par for the course, though. It's not necessarily indicative of how the French view it. But this is one positive one. Never has any president moistened his shirt like him in these debates. Stop complaining, because he did appear quite sweaty and he did expend a lot of energy while discussing these matters. Other reactions that we've seen online, well, a lot of anger about the cost of this particular project. 12 million euros was spent to hold all of these great debates. A lot of people talking about that. This woman saying the Grand Debate cost 12 million euros just to learn that the French want to pay fewer taxes, which does seem a little bit, perhaps, slightly a waste of money.
Indeed, democracy doesn't come cheap, as they say.
Indeed.
And I'll give you a comment, because obviously you took some stick there, but you were laughing, which is nice.
I do like a good laugh, and I love comics anyway. But no, 12 million euros. I think that's one of the problems. Also, is people don't realise what the cost of running anything public is. I always have, even locally, people are completely shocked, the cost of redoing a sidewalk, for example. So it looks like a lot, because if you had 12 million euros, it would be a lot of money. But in terms of, I think an election cost 25 times that, just running an election. So I'm not absolutely sure, but I think it's the same. So 12 million euros, if having a national election costs 25, that is not an enormous amount of money for that purpose, I would think.
Yves, final word?
I mean,
as a guarantor of the Grand Debate.
I mean, if it is useful, then 12 millions are nothing. If it can make it possible to have better public policies, this is nothing. If not, then it's not that a big deal.
You need to see something for your money, basically. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, but I agree with you. It's perhaps the only point on which I agree with what you said. 12 millions are not that a big deal compared to everyday
public spending. And that is one of the problems that comes in this debate, is a lot of the questions brought by people are not always based on, real knowledge of what things cost. And
let's say that the outcome won't be just Johnny Hallyday. We hope.
What a great point to end.
That was very funny.
Yves Saltemer, thank you very much indeed. Anne Le Breton, thanks to Claire Bruhagel from Felicity, and thank you to Haja Rasolano-Yatovo, who is in Haute-Savoie, contributing very lively during that debate. Thanks to Emma too, and thanks to you for watching. Stay with us here on France 24. More to come.